The silent watchers. The Galactic Council chamber shone like a crown of light in the middle of the void. Crystal towers reached high above the hall, and the voices of 100 alien leaders filled the air. They spoke of trade, borders, and wars. But one subject returned again and again: humanity. To the Council, humans were a joke. For centuries, they had been called fragile, noisy, reckless. They had no claws, no armor, no wings. To many, they were nothing but a minor species crawling on a small blue planet. But in the shadows of the chamber, an elder rose. His robes were plain, his staff old and cracked. Yet his eyes carried the weight of ages. When he spoke, the noise of the chamber died away. "You laugh," the elder said softly. "But you laugh too soon, for you have not yet seen them. Not truly. Humanity hides in silence. They have watched. They have waited. And when they unveil their strength, you will not laugh. You will tremble." The chamber burst into mocking laughter. The scaled leader, emerald skin glowing, leaned forward. "Old One," he hissed, "humans are weak. They hide because they are afraid. If they had power, they would have shown it long ago." Another counselor, tall with silver hair and glowing eyes, smirked. "Perhaps they have no power at all. Perhaps all you remember are children's tales. Legends are not truth." But the elder's gaze did not waver. His voice grew stronger, echoing across the vast chamber. "You do not see because you do not wish to see. Humans are silent not from fear but from choice. They prepare. They build in the shadows. They learn in silence. And silence, my friends, is the most dangerous weapon of all." The chamber roared, with laughter again. The elder lowered his staff and sat down slowly, his heart heavy. He knew the truth, but the council would not listen. Far from the shining chamber, on the dark edge of the galaxy, humanity moved quietly. Their colonies grew, stronger, their fleets larger, their weapons sharper. But none of it was shown to outsiders. To alien eyes, humans were still explorers, still traders, still a young species. But within hidden shipyards, star destroyers were being forged. Within quiet stations, new weapons hummed with energy no alien had ever seen. Every advance was hidden. Behind shadows, every test done far from prying eyes. And always, humans remembered. They remembered being mocked. They remembered being underestimated. They remembered every council voice that called them weak. In one such hidden station, a young human commander named Elias stood at the window. Before him, a massive vessel floated in silence. Its black hull absorbed the starlight, its edges sharp like a blade. No light blinked, no engine roared, yet it moved slowly across the void like a predator stalking prey. The crew around him worked without speaking. Silence filled the station, not from fear, but from discipline. The project had one rule: nothing leaves this place. No sound, no signal, nothing to alert the galaxy. Elias whispered under his breath, "They think we are weak. Let them." Back in the council, a new report was read. Scouts near the outer rim had vanished. Entire fleets sent to watch human colonies had stopped sending signals. No wreckage, no distress calls, only silence. "This proves nothing," the scaled leader snapped. "Perhaps they destroyed themselves. Humans are careless." But the elder leaned forward. His eyes glowed like fire. "Or perhaps," he said, "you are finally hearing their silence." In the deep dark of space, a human fleet drifted unseen. Their ships were black as night, invisible to scanners. Their weapons were silent until fired, and their crews, men and women from Earth and its colonies, waited with calm patience. For now, humanity remained hidden. For now, they let the galaxy laugh. But soon the silence would break, and when it did, the galaxy would not laugh again. It would fall silent, forever. The first revelation. The elder's warning echoed in the council chamber, but most leaders ignored it. They believed humans were still harmless, still crawling on their small worlds, yet rumors continued to arrive. A mining fleet near the human border had vanished. A patrol ship found only empty space where dozens of vessels should have been. No wreckage, no signals, only silence. The scaled leader rose in anger. They are mocking us. They hide like insects in the dark. We will crush them before their silence spreads fear. The council voted. A massive alien fleet was sent to the edge of human space. Hundreds of warships, armed with weapons forged to break empires, moved toward a small human colony. Their goal was simple: intimidate. Show the humans their weakness, force them back into submission. The fleet entered orbit above the colony. Their ships blocked the sun, their weapons glowing like fire. The commander of the alien fleet opened a channel. His voice, cold and sharp, filled the human settlement below. Humans, you are surrounded. You are nothing before the council. Surrender your colonies and your ships, or we will burn your world. On the surface, the humans listened in silence. No reply came, only static. The alien commander smirked. So, they hide, weak as always. He raised his clawed hand to signal the attack. But before the order could leave his lips, the stars shifted at EI. First, the aliens thought it was only shadows, tricks of the void. But then the shadows moved. Dozens of dark shapes slid out from the black of space, their hulls absorbing every light. They were human ships, but nothing like the galaxy had seen before. They did not shine. They did not roar. They moved in silence like predators. The alien fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma, missiles, and energy bolts streaked through the void, but the human ships shimmered and vanished. Impossible, the alien commander shouted. They cannot just disappear. Yet the human ships did exactly that. Their cloaks bent light, bent signals, even bent the scream of weapons. They reappeared behind the alien fleet, striking with precision. One alien warship exploded in silence. Another split apart, its engines cut neatly by beams the aliens could not even see. The battlefield turned into chaos. The Council's fleet fired wildly, but their weapons struck only empty space. The humans moved like ghosts, hitting once, then vanishing again. Inside one of the human ships, Commander Elias stood calm, his hands folded behind his back. His officers worked in silence, every movement practiced, every strike measured. Target engines, Elias said softly. Leave survivors. Let them see. The human fleet obeyed. Alien ships fell one after another, not destroyed fully but left crippled, floating helplessly in the void. The silence of the battlefield was louder than any explosion. Back in the council chamber, the images from the battle were projected across the walls. Counselors stared in horror as their mighty fleet collapsed in minutes. Ships that once ruled the stars were torn apart like paper. This cannot be, one cried. No species has such technology. They hid it, another whispered. All this time, they hid it. The elder stood slowly. His voice shook, but not from fear. Now you see, their silence was never weakness. It was patience. You mocked them for waiting, but while you laughed, they prepared. On the battlefield, the alien commander watched helplessly as his fleet burned around him. His last transmission was filled with panic. They strike from nowhere. They fight like shadows. Their silence. The signal cut. His ship split in two, drifting into the void. When the battle ended, only a handful of alien ships survived. They were left floating, powerless, their crews staring in silence at the human fleet. Then, for the first time, the humans spoke. A message appeared across every surviving screen, written in simple words. We do not seek war, but if you bring war to us, you will face the silence. The message ended. The human fleet vanished again, leaving no trace but the wreckage. In the council chamber, fear spread like fire. The scaled leader slammed his fists against the table. They were supposed to be weak, he roared. They were supposed to crawl, but the elder only shook his head. No, they were never weak. They only waited for the moment to reveal themselves. And now, the galaxy has heard their silence. Far from the council's eyes, in the dark of space, Commander Elias stood, once more at the window of his ship. His reflection stared back at him, calm and steady. "They wanted to see our power," he whispered. "Now they've seen only a glimpse." The stars stretched around him, endless and cold. And somewhere, deep in the void, the silent human fleet prepared for what was to come. The first revelation had been made, and the galaxy would never laugh again. The broken armada. The council chamber no longer laughed. Reports of the destroyed fleet spread faster than light across the galaxy. The mighty warships once feared had been torn apart by human shadows. Survivors whispered in fear. They vanished into the dark. They struck without sound. They fight like ghosts. Tortilla, scaled leader, furious, slammed all 6 fists on the silver table. This was only one battle, a trick, a game of shadows. We will crush them with true power. Call the Armada. The word echoed through the chamber like thunder. The Armada, the Council's greatest force, was not just a fleet. It was thousands of warships, forged across centuries. It had ended rebellions, broken empires, and silenced every race that dared resist. If humans dare to fight us, the scaled leader growled, let them face the Armada, and let their silence die in fire. For weeks the stars shook with the movement of the Armada. From every corner of the galaxy, ships gathered, cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers, enough power to darken the heavens. Entire systems watched in silence as the Armada moved toward the human border. The galaxy whispered, no one survives the Armada. Not even humans can face this. Yet in the quiet shadows of deep space, humanity prepared. Commander Elias stood aboard the silent flagship, his hands clasped behind his back. Before him stretched the human fleet, smaller, fewer in number, but sharp and precise. Ships that glowed with hidden energy, weapons unseen in alien records. His officers waited. Their faces were calm, their eyes steady. They were ready to fight a battle against impossible odds. Elias's voice was calm. They will come with numbers, with fire, with arrogance, and we will answer with silence. The fleet shimmered and vanished into the void. The Armada arrived at the edge of human space, filling the stars with steel. Thousands of alien ships stretched across the horizon, their weapons ready. The commanders laughed, confident. Let the humans come. Let us erase their myth. But the humans did not charge. They did not roar. They did not even appear. Instead, silence. The Armada moved deeper, weapons glowing. Then, one by one, ships began to vanish. A dreadnought's engines flickered, then died. Its crew screamed as its lights went dark, drifting helplessly into the void. Another ship exploded from the inside, its core pierced by a weapon no one saw. A carrier's fighters launched, but none returned. The Armada fired blindly, filling space with burning plasma. But the humans struck like shadows, always unseen, always precise. Alien commanders shouted orders, but confusion tore through the ranks. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the Armada, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, began to collapse. Inside his ship, Elias gave quiet orders. Target their command ships, leave survivors, let them carry the story back. Human weapons hummed, striking only where they must. Alien admirals found their bridges burning, their fleets torn apart, their soldiers trembling, and through it all the human fleet remained silent, vanishing into the void after every strike. Back in the council chamber, the battle was broadcast live. Counselors watched in horror as their mighty Armada fell apart. This cannot be real, one whispered. The Armada does not lose, another muttered, but the truth was plain. Ship after ship burned, while the humans moved like shadows across the stars. The elder rose, his voice shaking the chamber. You called them weak. You called them fragile. But they are fire wrapped in silence. And now, your Armada lies broken. When the battle ended, only fragments of the Armada remained. Survivors fled into the dark, their voices filled with terror. They are not human. They are something else. They knew our every move. The silence. It killed us. The once mighty armada, symbol of the Council's power, had fallen. Elias stood once more at the window of his flagship, staring at the wreckage drifting in the void. His voice was quiet, but every officer heard it. This was not victory. This was a warning. The galaxy thinks silence means weakness, but silence run is power. In markets, in mines, in hidden corners of the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. For the first time in history, the Council's armada had been broken, and by humans. Oppressed races began to rise. Workers dropped their chains. Soldiers questioned their orders. And everywhere, one phrase spread like fire. The humans broke the armada. Back in the chamber, the Council no longer roared with confidence. Fear filled the room. Some leaders demanded extermination. Others whispered of surrender. The once united rulers of the galaxy were now divided. The elder leaned on his staff, his eyes bright with fire. The moment has come. You cannot erase what the galaxy has seen. You cannot silence what they have felt. Humanity has shown its power, and now, nothing will ever be the same. The galaxy had believed the armada was unbreakable, but humans had broken it. And with that, the galaxy itself began to crack. Whispers of fear, the armada was broken. Its shattered remains drifted. Through the stars, a graveyard of steel. Survivors returned to the Council with trembling voices, telling the same story again and again. They came from nowhere. They vanished into the dark. We could not fight them. We could not even see them. The Council chamber, once filled with mocking laughter, now shook with unease. Leaders who had once called humans weak now whispered in corners, afraid to speak too loudly. The scaled leader slammed his fists on the silver table, his voice trembling with rage. They tricked us. Shadows and lies. We still outnumber them, 1,000 to 1. If we gather again, we can erase them. But another counselor spoke with fear in his voice. You saw the armada. You saw how they fought. They do not need numbers. They strike with silence, and silence cannot be stopped. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some demanded extermination, others whispered about peace. For the first time, the mighty council was divided. Far from the chamber, across the galaxy, the whispers began to spread. In the dark mines of the Outer Rim, slaves passed secret words. The humans defeated the armada. If they can rise, so can we. In crowded markets, merchants leaned close to customers. They fight with shadows. They broke the unbreakable. The council is afraid. On battlefronts, soldiers began to lower their weapons. They looked at their commanders and muttered, "Why should we fight for rulers who cannot even stand against humans?" The myth of human weakness was dead. In its place, a new legend was growing. On the poisoned world where humans had once been, tested, Arya and her people worked in silence. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of hiding. It was the silence of purpose. They dismantled the wreckage of alien drones and rebuilt them into weapons. They forged armor from the shells of predators. They shared food with allies who arrived from distant worlds, bringing supplies in secret. An alien worker, his blue skin glowing under the campfire, whispered as he handed Arya a crate of tools. "We bring these because you give us hope. My people saw the armada fall. If humans can stand, maybe one day we can too." Arya placed her hand on his shoulder and said softly, "Then stand with us. Not behind us. With us." The council tried to silence the stories. They sent soldiers to seize transmissions, to burn markets, to crush rumors. But it was too late. The whispers had already turned into voices. On a mining moon, workers shouted openly, "We are human in spirit. We will not bow." On a distant colony, soldiers threw down their weapons, shouting, "If humans can fight, so can we." The council sent fleets to control them. But when those fleets arrived, they found entire planets refusing to obey. Inside the council chamber, panic grew. The scaled leader roared louder than ever, trying to drown the fear. This rebellion is their fault. Humanity is a disease, infecting the galaxy with hope. Destroy them and the fire will die. But another counselor, trembling, stood to face him. "You are wrong. The fire is already alive. Even if humans vanished tomorrow, the galaxy would not forget. They showed us the council can bleed. And once people see blood, they will not stop." The elder rose slowly, leaning on his staff. His voice was calm, but it cut deeper than any roar. "You still do not understand. You believed silence meant weakness, but silence can be strength. Silence can be patience. Silence can be the storm before the fire, and now the fire has begun." The chamber fell into chaos. Half the council shouted for war. Half begged for peace. Their once united voices were broken, just like their armada. Meanwhile, in deep space, Commander Elias stood aboard his silent flagship. Reports flowed in. Worlds resisting, soldiers defecting, rebellions spreading. One of his officers asked quietly, "Commander, do we strike again?" Elias shook his head. His eyes were cold but steady. "No, not yet. The galaxy is already fighting itself. We do not need to strike. We only need to watch." He turned back to the window, where the stars glowed like fire. "They wanted us to reveal our strength. Very well. We gave them a glimpse. And now they are destroying themselves with fear." The galaxy trembled. Planets once silent now spoke. People once bowed now rose. The council no longer laughed. It whispered, it argued, it feared, and through it all, humanity remained silent. Not the silence of weakness, the silence of power. The siege of silence. The galaxy trembled after the fall of the Armada. Fleets scattered, rebellion spread, and the council's grip began to weaken. But the scaled leader still roared with fury inside the chamber. "They broke the Armada, yes, but our fortress still stands. Our citadel world is unbreakable. No one has ever breached its walls. Let the humans strike there and we will end their myth forever." The fortress world was more than a planet. It was the heart of the council's power. A globe wrapped in steel, with towers reaching the clouds, and defensive rings orbiting its skies. Its surface burned with weapons, its atmosphere guarded by fleets. It was a symbol of control. "If humans dare approach," the scaled leader growled, "they will meet a wall no shadow can pass." The council nodded, desperate to believe him. Weeks later, alarms shook the fortress world. From the void the humans arrived, but there was no thunder, no blazing fire, no screaming weapons. The human fleet did not attack. It simply appeared in silence, dark ships sliding into position like ghosts. Within hours they surrounded the planet completely. Every path in or out was sealed. The fortress prepared for war. Its fleet spread across the sky, its weapons pointed outward. But no human ship fired. No weapon flared. Days passed. Then weeks. The fortress waited, growing restless. Supplies dwindled. The humans remained silent. Inside the council chamber, confusion spread. "Why do they not attack?" One counselor whispered. "What are they waiting for?" another asked. The elder spoke softly, his voice shaking the chamber. "They are waiting for silence to do what fire cannot. Hunger, fear, doubt. They are not destroying your walls. They are destroying your will." On the fortress world, the people began to starve. Food reserves dropped, power flickered. Soldiers patrolled with tired eyes, watching the dark human ships above. They tried to stay confident, but whispers spread among them. Why don't they strike? Why don't they end this? Maybe they don't need to. Morale cracked. The strongest fortress in the galaxy had not been touched by a single shot, yet it was already breaking. In deep space, aboard the silent flagship, Commander Elias stood calm. His officers reported, "Supplies on the fortress are falling. Civil unrest is spreading inside. Their fleets are losing discipline." Elias nodded slowly. "Good. Do not fire. Do not speak. Let silence be the weapon." Back on the fortress, rebellion finally erupted. Hungry civilians broke into supply depots. Soldiers abandoned posts. Commanders screamed for order, but the human ships above never moved. Their silence pressed heavier than any weapon. Finally, A small group of alien soldiers sent a desperate message into the void. Their voices trembled. "We surrender. Please. Just speak to us." The message reached Elias. For a moment, he stood silent. Then he gave his only order. "Transmit one word." Across the fortress, every screen lit up with a single message. "Endure. No threats. No promises, just one word." In the council chamber, panic erupted. Their greatest fortress had not fallen by battle. It had fallen by silence. "This is not war," one counselor shouted. "This is something else. They strangle us without firing a shot." The scaled leader slammed his fists, his voice filled with rage and fear. "They play with us. We must burn them before silence burns us." But others shook their heads. One whispered, "What if we cannot? What if their silence is stronger than our fire?" The council was no longer only divided, it was collapsing. In hidden markets, the story spread faster than fire. Did you hear? The humans took the fortress without firing once. They starved the council with silence. They don't need war. Their silence itself is victory. Oppressed worlds rose louder. Soldiers deserted in greater numbers. Merchants stopped paying tribute. The galaxy had seen the armada fall. Now it had seen the fortress surrender. And everywhere one truth spread. Humans could not be stopped. Commander Elias stood once more at the window of his flagship, his reflection sharp against the stars. His voice was quiet, but his officers felt its weight. They mocked us for silence. They thought silence meant fear. But silence can strangle an empire. And today, silence has spoken louder than war. The stars outside remained calm. The galaxy, once filled with mocking laughter, was now filled only with whispers, and those whispers were fear. The siege was over. The fortress had fallen, and the galaxy finally understood. Humans did not need to roar to win. They only needed silence. The UO Council divided. The fall of the fortress world shook the galaxy like an earthquake. It had not been destroyed by fire. It had not been taken by armies. It had simply been surrounded, starved, and broken by silence. Whispers spread faster than light. The strongest world surrendered without a fight. Humans broke the fortress without firing a shot. If silence can defeat walls, what chance do we have? The council chamber filled with chaos. The scaled leader roared with fury, his emerald skin glowing under the crystal lights. "They humiliate us. First the armada, now the fortress. Soon the galaxy itself will rise behind them. We must burn humanity to ash before the fire spreads further." But others no longer agreed. A silver-haired counselor stood, her eyes trembling with fear. "You do not understand. We already lost. The galaxy no longer fears us, they fear the humans. Every act of cruelty we send against them becomes a story of their strength. Every battle we fight becomes their legend." The chamber erupted into shouting. Some counselors screamed for extermination. Others shouted for surrender. The once mighty council was no longer one voice. It was two, broken and bitter. The elder rose slowly, leaning on his staff. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. "You call them disease. You call them threat. But the truth is simpler. You cannot control them because they do not fight, like you. They do not seek glory. They do not seek conquest. They only endure. And in their endurance, they inspire others. This is why they are unstoppable." Half the chamber fell silent. The other half roared in anger. The scaled leader slammed his fists. "You speak like a traitor, old one. Humans are no miracle. They are poison. And if we do not kill them now, they will kill us all." But outside the chamber, the galaxy was already changing. On mining moons, workers refused to bow. They raised crude banners painted with human symbols. On distant colonies, soldiers turned their weapons not against rebels, but against the council, officers who commanded them. In marketplaces, traders stopped sending tribute, whispering, "Why pay rulers who cannot even protect their fortress?" Entire fleets hesitated when ordered to march. Some refused outright. The cracks were no longer hidden. The empire was breaking. Inside his silent flagship, Commander Elias received the reports. His officers spoke in calm voices. Another colony has risen against the Council. 3 fleets have refused orders. Even within the chamber, they are divided. Elias stood at the window, watching the stars. His reflection stared back at him. Calm, steady, unshaken. Then the war is already won, he said softly. We do not need to strike. They are destroying themselves. His second officer frowned. Should we reveal more of our strength? Show them what we truly hold? Elias shook his head. No, not yet. Every time they test us, they reveal themselves to the galaxy as tyrants. Every time we endure, we reveal ourselves as something greater. Let their fear do the work for us. Back. In the council chamber, the divide turned into open conflict. Councilors shouted so loudly the crystal walls shook. Some called for peace, begging to negotiate with humanity before the Empire collapsed. Others demanded one last desperate war, a strike with everything they had left. The scaled leader's voice thundered. We will not kneel to insects. Gather what remains of our fleets. Gather every weapon. We will show the galaxy humans are not unstoppable. But the silver-haired counselor shouted back. You are blind. You will only give them another legend. Every strike against them becomes their victory. Do you not see? The more we fight, the more we lose. Guards inside the chamber raised their weapons as counselors screamed at each other. For the first time in history, the rulers of the galaxy aimed their fury not at outsiders but at themselves. The elder lifted his staff, his voice echoing over the storm. You cannot silence the truth. Humanity hid their strength not out of fear but out of mercy. They endured in silence until you forced their hand. And now, you will learn what silence means when it breaks. The chamber froze at his words. Even the scaled leader, seething with rage, said nothing. Across the galaxy, the rebellion spread. Entire systems turned their backs on the council. Fleets split in half, some joining the uprising, others fleeing into the void. The Empire's chains were snapping one by one, and at the center of it all, humans remained silent. Not the silence of weakness, the silence of waiting, the silence before the storm. The council was broken. The Empire was shaking, and the galaxy braced itself for the final truth. The truth revealed, the galaxy was no longer united. The council, once feared across the stars, had broken apart. Half demanded peace, half demanded war. Fleets deserted, colonies rebelled, and everywhere, whispers carried the same name, humans. In the council chamber, chaos reigned. The scaled leader roared with fury. They infect the galaxy. They turn slaves into rebels, soldiers into traitors, allies into enemies. We must strike now before nothing is left of our rule. But the silver-haired counselor shouted back, her voice shaking with fire. No, every strike makes them stronger. Every battle becomes their story. Look at us, we are collapsing without them even firing. Humanity does not destroy us. We destroy ourselves. The elder rose, his staff glowing faintly. His voice cut through the chamber like thunder. You laughed when I warned you. You called them fragile. You called them prey. But now you see the truth. They hid their strength not because they feared us, but because they chose to wait. Silence was their shield, and now silence is their sword. Far from the chamber, on the edge of deep space, Commander Elias stood aboard the silent flagship. His officers watched him closely as new reports arrived. Council fleets are breaking apart. Entire planets are declaring freedom. Even within the chamber, they are ready to tear each other apart. Elias's eyes stayed fixed on the stars. His voice was quiet, steady. Then it is time. Let them see only a glimpse of what we truly hold. The human fleet moved into position. Black ships, sharp as blades, slid from the shadows of space. At their center, a massive vessel emerged, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull absorbed starlight. Its engines burned without sound. Weapons lined its body, each one glowing with energy that no alien technology could match. The ship was not built for war alone. It was built to end doubt, From the council chamber, alarms blared, screens lit up with images of the human fleet. Counselors gasped, some in awe, others in terror. What is that? One whispered. A weapon, another muttered, trembling. No, not just a weapon. A warning. The scaled leader's eyes widened, his arrogance fading at last. They never showed this before. The elder raised his staff. His voice shook the hall. And still, this is only a glimpse. The human fleet did not fire. They did not speak. They only appeared, surrounding the council's home, system in silence. Across the galaxy, people froze. Soldiers stopped fighting. Rebels stopped shouting. Even the council fell silent. Every eye turned to the dark human ships that hung like shadows against the stars. Then, finally, a human voice spoke. Commander Elias's message reached every screen, every ship, every world. His words were simple. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to rule. We are here to endure. You laughed at us, you tested us, you tried to break us, but we do not break. We rise, we endure, and we are unstoppable. The message ended. The silence returned. On mining moons, workers dropped their tools and cheered. On colonies, soldiers shouted and raised their fists. On markets, merchants embraced and wept. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw rulers tremble and hope rise. Inside the council chamber, fear consumed the leaders. Some dropped to their knees, begging for mercy. Others screamed in rage, but their words carried no weight. Their empire had ended not with fire, but with silence. The elder lowered his staff. His eyes glowed with tears, but his voice was firm. The truth is revealed. Humanity did not need to roar. Humanity did not need to conquer. Their silence was enough. And now the galaxy will never laugh at them again. Back aboard the flagship, Elias watched the galaxy's response. His officers waited for his orders. One asked softly, "Commander, what now?" Elias's gaze never left the stars. His reflection shone against the black glass. Now, we wait, we build, we endure, because true power is not in how loud we speak, but in how long we stand. He turned, his voice quiet but sharp. The galaxy has seen only a fraction of our strength. That is enough. The rest remains silent. The humans had unveiled their true power, not through fire, not through destruction, but through patience, silence, and the will to endure when all others would have fallen. The galaxy, once filled with laughter at their weakness, now fell silent in awe, and in that silence, a legend was born. Humans were not weak. Humans were not prey. Humans were unstoppable.